Inside the command chambers of the Galactic Convergence, a strange signal has been traced to an uninhabitable system. Saul. What they find isn't a relic, but a trap laced in silence and dread. Humans are not extinct. They're waiting. Galactic. Convergence Core Depth Sector 44B. Observation. Dome-High Marshal Vrel of the Zorith Dominion leaned closer to the war table, his 6 segmented eyes narrowed into slits of panic. Origin confirmed, the Kyros technician whispered. Quills, twitching in fear. The pulse comes from Saul. Silence dropped like a blade. Sol, the system that should have been dead. Impossible, barked High Commander Trask. That sector's marked as evacuated. Anomalous decay. Human ruins. Nothing more. But the data was irrefutable. The signal was repeating in tight pulses, exact, rhythmic, unnatural. A whisper spread through the chamber. They said the humans were gone. The last known human vessel had gone silent 312 cycles ago. No distress. No retaliation, just vanishing, as if Earth had folded into myth. Now, it called. The Convergence gathered its finest, diplomatic strategists, military tacticians, xenoscientists. They watched the signal's modulation unfold on the holowall. It was not a cry for help. It was a pattern, a layered sequence with quantum encryption no one could pass. I don't like this, hissed the Varn speaker. It's too clean, too intentional. Then let's answer it, Trask growled. They didn't send diplomats. They sent warships, human relay outpost, Sol system, Earth-Moon orbit, formerly Lunar Station 1. Dr. Elise Marrow sat alone inside the ancient lunar relay. Her gloved hand hovered over a control panel lined with dust and microfractures. The signal bait had been sent. She'd lived underground for 19 years, long past the day Earth vanished beneath black shields and went dark. Humanity hadn't died. It had gone cold, hidden, rebuilt beneath silence and coded ghosts. Now the Convergence had swallowed half the galaxy. Now, finally, the bait shimmered back. They came. A tear traced down her cheek. Above, the outer dome vibrated with distant arrivals. Convergence scouts, spiraling in fast drop formation, she whispered to herself. Let them see it. Below her console, a dormant fusion conduit lit up for the first time in decades. The core's low hum turned into a whine. The system came online. Onboard Convergence flagship. Air of purity. Orbit of lunar scan. Anomaly, Trask snapped. The surface was clear on approach. Then, from the moon's far side, something moved. The scans spiked. Mass signatures rewrote themselves. What appeared as fractured terrain unfolded like petals, monolithic. Segments unlocking, unfolding with magnetic resonance fields, revealing towers not of stone, but of weapon metal. Layered hulls the color of thunder. A station? Vrel whispered. The technician stammered, No, sir, that's a ship. It wasn't just large, it was planetary class. Moon integrated. Its surface bore old Earth sigils, black, paint-scorched with the letters NASCA, Orion Division. Then audio clicked in, only once, one voice, humans, calm, unforgiving. We told you to leave us buried, and the signal cut. No more messages. Just the war form rising, weapon systems awakening from silence. The Convergence fleet fanned out in silent formation, shimmering against the void like predator insects, uncertain of their prey. Ships the size of cities drifted closer to the moon. Correction, the war form. Unsure if it was active, alive, or ancient and broken, Admiral Trask started from the viewport, mandibles flexing. Bring main lenses on that construct. Detail every seam. The AI observer unit translated the visuals into layered schematics. No logic held. The mass was far too dense. Internal structures contradicted known engineering laws. Some corridors curved inside themselves. Some towers had no entrances. Did they Fuse a ship into the crust? Muttered Subcommander Ilion. No, Vrel answered, his voice dry as frost. They built the moon around it. Inside the human construct, systems surged alive. Electric veins lit beneath the surface like a nervous system finding itself again. Vaults unlocked. Code was read by machines that hadn't blinked since Earth's final blackout. Dr. Elise Marrow paced along the glass walkway above the primary control spine. Her breath fogged the sealed atmosphere inside her helmet. A door opened without sound, revealing a tall, thin man, skin tight with age, eyes wired with black neural traces. "Jonas," she said, almost forgetting how to speak aloud. He nodded. "We lit the field. They came. Is the core stable?" Stable? Enough to make history. He held up a small object, a worn ID tag from NASA's pre-collapse days. "You remember what they called this program?" Project Silent Chorus. Below their feet, chamber doors opened to reveal columns, missile, silos that had no payload. Instead, magnetic lances and lattice nanoweave capsules designed to shatter shields with physics too brutal to be lawful under galactic code. Each one carried a payload of ruin. Far above, the Convergence fleet didn't attack. Not yet. Fear held them back. They scanned, hesitated, debated in open channels, thousands of alien languages converging into one question. What is this? An answer came in the form of a pulse, identical to the bait signal, but inverted, a kind of auditory mirror. The signal struck the command ship's auditory sensors, rebounding through every convergence frequency. "Feedback loop," a Zaan analyst shouted. "It's rewriting our..." Static, then screaming, not from humans, from shipbound alien crews as their navigational AIs froze and began reciting Earth telemetry data from over 300 years ago. "That's impossible," Vrel barked. "Their systems are speaking to ours." "They're not speaking," the tech stammered. "They're overriding." One of the smaller dreadnoughts, the Koriv's Rage, turned without command input. Its weapons armed, shields dropped, and it began diving toward the lunar surface. "Manual override," Trask screamed. "Stop it!" No one could. Aboard the Koriv's Rage, all that remained of the crew were panicked claw marks on command seats and frozen eyes staring at control panels that refused to obey. The dreadnought slammed into the moon's hull. There was no explosion. The warform simply absorbed it. Metal folding, reconfiguring, devouring its systems and integrating them. "That wasn't an attack," Jonas whispered from the lunar interior. "That was assimilation." A new signature pulsed across every scan, an awakened subsystem knot. Seen until now, Escoran subconscious orbital retaliation network. Marrow smiled bitterly. "They're not here to fight. They're here to feed." The Convergence command ship, Air of Purity, drifted silently in orbit, its bridge a vacuum of motion. No orders, no movement, just breath held across species. SKORN was no longer a term. They realized it was a function. The lunar surface shifted again. Beneath the dust, entire strata peeled back like old skin. The moon, now recognized not as a celestial body but a containment shell, began transmitting on open bands. It wasn't a signal. It was a voice. Return what was taken. 1,000 minds aboard the fleet tensed at once. Neural uplinks sparked. Tactical AIs dropped into fail-safe mode. Commander Trask barked, "Shut down all input relays. I want hardwired lines only. No open neural loops." But it was too late. For several of the outer ships, pilots and command crews, those still biologically dependent, began choking. Their breathing accelerated unnaturally. Blood vessels ruptured. Internal comms flooded with screams as command hierarchies collapsed in real time. "No weapons fired," Trask roared. "You hear me? We hold formation." Too late. The orbiting warform began responding. Its upper crust, once mistaken for simple rock, blossomed into a dish. No, a lens. Plasma-concentrating mirrors rose, aligning in geometric sync. An ancient light weapon, sun-fed and silence-born, spun into position. Elise Marrow stood at the heart of the reactor chamber. Dim blue light illuminated her suit. Jonas monitored the weapon arrays from a balcony of glass and metal. They thought. It was a tomb, he said, brushing ash from an old Earth flag mounted in shadow. But the moon was never passive. It was a failsafe, she said, and now it remembers why it exists. Elsewhere in the subterranean bowels of the station, rows of cryocells lined the wall. Not all were functional. Some glowed amber, systems humming. But many were black, names long erased, one flickered, then another. A third cell brightened. The occupant twitched, muscles atrophied, eyes wide and blind, but brain active. Jonas read the tag aloud. Lieutenant Halverson, 7th Orbital Bastion. Status exhumed. Wait, Marrow said, staring. The moon's waking them up? The cells responded to no known command. It was autonomous, purpose-driven. The war form had remembered its crew. Up above, the Convergence fleet panicked. The High Assembly of Five called in across relay space. Arguments in hundreds of dialects collided. Emergency doctrine invoked, countermanded, rewritten. Destroy the object, hissed Speaker Vernal. End it before it escalates. Trasks and hovered over the offensive grid. If we fire, we break doctrine. No confirmed hostile, no warning. Vrel's whisper was like knives. You think this is a misunderstanding? And then the human lens fired. No sound, no glory, just light. A silent, white-hot ribbon that lashed across void. It didn't target a ship. It didn't need to. It struck the command relay satellite the fleet depended on for link targeting. In an instant, the fleet was blind. Shields out of sync, trajectories uncoordinated, command fractals severed. Inside the moon, a new chamber hissed open. Jonas turned to Marrow. This wasn't revenge. Then what was it? He looked at the light-slicing space above. Its rehearsal. Aboard the fractured fleet, nothing worked. Not properly. AI demons choked on corrupted pathfinding. Sensor. Arrays showed false readings. Ships where there were none. Weapon systems reporting both armed and empty. Officers screamed across analog comms, trying to restore a hierarchy that had disintegrated in milliseconds. Worse, the fleet's sense of position had been subtly compromised. Internal gyroscopes flickered. It felt, collectively, as if the fleet was drifting through something's mouth. On the surface of the moon, the newly exposed weapon structures ceased movement. They weren't firing. They were waiting. Trask's claws raked across the railing of the command deck. Why? Aren't they finishing us? No one had an answer. In the human control chambers, Dr. Marrow watched a new display rise from the floor. A physical slab, black and rough, covered in etched glass veins. It wasn't in English. Not at first. But as she stared, the language began to shift, morph, until she could read it. Directive 0. No contact, no broadcast, no forgiveness. Jonas was beside her now, breathing through clenched teeth. We built this as our final message, not to them, to ourselves. A boundary. You knew? She asked. I suspected. The project leads buried it, but the core AI always knew how the galaxy would respond to us. Earth's aggression, our advancement, it terrified them. They'd never accept us. And we never surrendered, she said quietly. No, we buried our knives. Far below them, in the crypt vaults beneath Mare Tranquillitatis, something old stirred. A long cylinder, rusted and locked under magnetic clamps, released its hold with a groan of old metal and electromagnetic snap. A signal burst, but not. To space, to Earth. Somewhere on the broken cradle of humanity's former home, a mirrored structure blinked awake. Not a beacon. A brain. Subterranean Earth. Location redacted. Black site. Cradle 1. The last of Earth's atmosphere shivered as Cradle One rose through its dust-covered aperture. A platform climbed with it, rising past the skeletal cities and glassed oceans. Inside, a single operative stood among dust-cloaked machines. "Ping received," the Cradle announced. "Lunar Chorus has activated. Phase 1 complete." The man nodded. His name was Commander Jacob Rise, one of the last orbital defense architects. The kind who signed the orders, not followed them. He pulled the launch key from a chain around his neck and inserted it into the socket. "Confirm purpose," the Cradle asked. Jacob's voice was gravel. "Directive 0. No contact, no broadcast, no forgiveness. Confirmed. Phase 2 authorization permitted. Lunar orbit back in the shadow of the moon. The Convergence made their decision. We fire now," Trask said, "or we lose this sector to a myth." He sent the command 1,000 warheads launched. Hyperspeed plasma shells, antimatter bombs, kinetic rods at 0.9 C. A storm of technological terror, but none of it struck. Before a single projectile made impact, the warform pulsed again, this time in gravity. A field unfolded, invisible and perfect, catching every attack in a sphere of distorted space. Then the projectiles vanished, converted into heat, then silence. Trask stared, dead-eyed. "This is a god weapon." "No," Vrel whispered. "It's a message written in warfare." Below, inside the moon, Marrow looked up as another cryopod hissed open. This time, the soldier within walked out on his own. Jonas stared, breath held. "Halverson," the man's voice rasped through vocal cords barely thawed. "What year is it?" He didn't fall. He walked. Lieutenant Halverson stepped out of the cryopod like time hadn't passed. Skin pale, eyes burning. The nanofilaments under his flesh hadn't degraded. Neural threads shimmered in his neck like frost. Elise Marrow stood frozen as he scanned the chamber. "No date?" he asked again. 3 centuries. "Give or take," Jonas answered, trying to sound like the world hadn't just died around them. Halverson blinked once. "Is Directive 0 still active?" "We don't know what's active anymore," Elise said. He looked at her, not with confusion, but with certainty. "Then I assume the moon's begun to write the answer." Above, in orbit, every ship began to spin. Not by choice. It started as a yaw, then roll, then a full gravitational destabilization. Not enough to cause hull rupture, just enough to confuse orientation, enough to disarm confidence. "They're not attacking," Commander Trask snarled, holding on to a side rail as his bridge shifted. "They don't need to," said Vrel, pale. "They're showing us how unbalanced we are, how fragile our vectors are under their touch." A young technician on the upper tier of the command deck screamed suddenly. Everyone turned. She'd clawed at her own helmet. Her eyes streamed black. Tears. "Language input malfunction. No, not language, it's..." She spasmed, seized and collapsed. Blood pooled under her body, unnaturally thick. Trask's voice cracked as he shouted, "Lock down all AI conduits, sever comms, go to blind protocol." Too late again. The screens surrounding them blinked white, then grey, then displayed Earth, not as it was, but as they feared it. Burning skies, black oceans, soldiers in silhouette wading through radiation and flame. Every alien on the bridge felt the same emotion at once, dread and then words, in their own language, in each species' mother tongue. You thought our silence meant extinction. It meant calculation. Back on the lunar core, Halverson walked barefoot through the command artery, trailing condensation from his thawed body. The nanofilaments in his spine pulsed with rhythm now. He passed silent consoles, sealed doors, weapon arrays. They all recognized him. They opened. Jonas followed. "You were here before, weren't you?" he asked quietly. Halverson nodded. "I helped build it. I helped bury it. I helped swear the last pact. This place is ours, not because we made it, but because we refused to let it die." Elise tried to keep up. "Why wake now?" Halverson stopped at a wall covered in black glass. He placed his palm against it. A shape behind it, humanoid, gigantic, twitched. They crossed the line. The attack? No, the tracing. The moment they found our signal, followed it, broke our one final rule. They declared intent. The moon woke itself. He turned to them slowly. That was Black Ice Protocol. You know what comes next? Neither spoke. Halverson looked at Jonas. Command pilot link? Still dormant. Even the Earthside beacons haven't. They will. Earth, Cradle 1 Commander Jacob Rees stood beneath the sky of static and ash. The Cradle's dome had fully opened now, revealing a device older than any archive on galactic record. A dark, wheeled structure, bristling with resonance pylons and eventfold mirrors. Above it floated the primary emitter, a satellite made of bone-colored composite that flickered between dimensions. Not teleportation, not stealth, something older, something humans called phase dissonance shielding. The Cradle spoke. Fleet orbital orientation has destabilized. Lunar Chorus has established psychological primacy. Initiate next sequence. Rays touched the control slab. Confirm sequence. Ghost sheath. The satellite vanished, not cloaked, not stealthed, simply unregistered from reality. In orbit, several convergence ships fired. At nothing, their targeting systems swore a weapon was there. Their eyes saw nothing. The effect began: false gravitational dips, localized EMPs, data cache degradation. One by one, history itself rewrote in micro-bursts around the weapons unseen. Orbit on board, air of purity, Vrel gasped. We're seeing past events, our logs changing in real time, missions we never flew, systems we never used. Trask stared. A log entry appeared in front of them. Convergence War 1, losses to human forces, 68%. What is this? He hissed. Some kind of fabrication virus? No, Vrel whispered. It's a memory we were never supposed to have. He looked up at the moon and realized it wasn't just a weapon. It was a repository, a historian, and it was no longer silent. Inside the war form, Halverson stood at the heart of the central memory chamber. Projectors came to life. Old footage of humans not in war, but in sacrifice. Engineers fusing themselves into walls to keep systems running. Children signing off from Earth, knowing they would never see their parents again. Soldiers outside airlocks, holding back pressure leaks with their bodies as others escaped. The room flickered with heat. Halverson pressed his palm against the final seal. It opened with a groan, and inside was the last pilot. She had not aged. She had not breathed in centuries, but her eyes opened, and the moon sang. Outer Convergence Command broadcast. Emergency relay. All convergence receivers activated. Even those quarantined. An unknown signal played. Not a threat, not a weapon. Recording a woman's voice. You studied our wars, but never our grief. You memorized our weapons, but not our thresholds. You catalogued our species, but not our silence. You broke the line, so now we will rewrite yours. The signal cut, just before the final word. Begin. From the moon, something impossible happened. It bent. Not physically, perceptually. Ships saw it multiply. 4, then 8, then an infinite corridor of identical moons, reflections through gravitational echo. No one could tell which was real, and in each reflection, something stirred. The fleet fired. Everything, every ship, every barrel, missiles, cannons, planet burners, none of them struck true. The weapons passed through reflections, ricocheting between moons until they simply never returned. In the command ship, Trask collapsed into his chair. They're not fighting us. Vrel nodded, tears in his insectoid eyes. They're teaching us why they stopped. The galactic fleet reels from unreality and psychological warfare as the moon continues its calculated escalation. Humanity's true deterrence unfolds. Not a superweapon of destruction, but of conviction. The story shifts toward a terrifying revelation. Earth didn't die. It transcended the need to respond. Until now, outer lunar orbit. 0.12. AU command systems across the Convergence fleet began spitting nonsense. Coordinates broke apart into complex, irrational numbers. Charts looped into recursive, infinite patterns. Translations repeated on infinite mirrors. One ship attempted to jump away, only to reappear instantly 2,000 meters closer to the moon than before. Engines intact, crew not. The bridge camera feed showed bodies evaporated mid-motion. Uniforms fell in slow folds to the floor. Trask clutched his secondary heart. It thumped like a war drum in his chest. Every instinct told him to flee, not strategically, primally. "Why won't they answer us?" he rasped. "We're not asking the right question," Vrel replied hoarsely. "We keep demanding they explain their weapon. But we don't understand their line." Trask turned slowly. "What line?" Vrel activated an overlay of all human contact records in the Galactic Concordance, diplomatic refusals, encrypted trade locks, closed frequencies. The records looked aggressive before. But now, they warned us. Every year, every silence, every time they refused to speak, they were drawing a line. He zoomed in human galactic English, across a 150-year-old treaty refusal. "We will not fight for our place, but we will end yours if you take ours." Inside the moon, Halverson stood, beside the last pilot. She hadn't spoken since waking. She hadn't needed to. The machine recognized her soul print. Her name, Avery Locke. She stood before the final chamber, not a throne, a harness wrapped in bone-steel cables. Her neural uplink danced like spiderwebs catching fire. No weapons loaded, no commands issued. She simply thought, and the moon responded. "Elise," Jonas whispered, "what's happening to the AI readouts?" Dr. Marrow checked again. "They're disappearing." Jonas blinked. "Crashing?" "No," she whispered. "They're choosing to go quiet. Like they've finished their work." Avery Locke stepped into the harness. The moon tilted. Convergence battleship Silence Keeper, a full third of the fleet, had already powered down. Not from strikes. None had landed, but from dissonance. System logic had unraveled. Command routines looped into philosophical equations. A helmsman on Silence Keeper sobbed openly. "They're not killing us," he whispered, voice breaking. "They're turning us into people who wouldn't dare shoot." The captain clenched his jaw. "What do you mean?" The helmsman trembled. I think we're being shown their reason, not their weapon." A low tone vibrated through the hull. It wasn't a blast. It was recognition, transmission from Earth, reactivated global relay, the first true human signal in 300 years. Cross the stars. It arrived unencrypted. No drama, just Avery Locke's voice, clear and mournful. "We asked for one thing. Silence. We gave you a line. You stepped over it with curiosity instead of caution. This was not a trap. It was a warning left under glass. A bell without a clapper. You broke the seal. Now the world that birthed us stirs, and it is not kind." Silence. Then, the final sentence, sharper than any weapon: "We are not angry, we are awake." Fleet-wide convergence reaction. On hundreds of bridges, translators failed, not from errors, from conceptual overload. Commanders who had studied humans for decades suddenly realized how little they had understood. Not fear, not vengeance, but discipline. In silence, every simulation that once predicted human resurgence had gotten one thing wrong. They thought humanity would retaliate out of rage. They never predicted restraint as a weapon. Inside the moon, the war form was complete now. Its pilot didn't direct weapons. She directed perspective. Avery Locke opened her mind, connected Earth to the stars once more. A field emerged, pure data, pure history, pulsing from the moon into every sensor in the system. Galactic telemetry. Warped into human truth, alien minds buckled as they saw what Earth had endured. Not death, but withdrawal. Not cowardice, but containment. Every burned continent, every buried satellite, every trigger humanity chose not to pull. In the Central Command, Sphere, Halverson whispered, they never understood. We left the galaxy not because we couldn't fight, but because we knew what we'd become if we had to. The floor beneath him pulsed with a low hum. Marrow stepped forward, barely breathing. What is that? Halverson looked up, almost sorrowful. A memory being made real. The final act unfolds, not in blood, but in memory. Humanity doesn't strike the galaxy, it unveils itself. The weapon is revealed, not firepower, but the unbearable weight of human restraint. The convergence must face what they provoked and decide whether to dissolve or disappear. Outer system, 24 hours later. No fleet moved, no command was given. The galaxy had never known stillness like this. The human moon did not fire a shot. It simply existed now. A fixed point around which every certainty fractured. A final broadcast rang out. Slow, reverent final. This is not war. This is memory. And memory reshapes everything it touches. Convergence High Assembly, Emergency Session Ambassador Trask, eyes dull and voice hollow, stood before the 9 surviving seats of command. They've shown us the cost, not of engaging them. He stopped. Of waking them. Silence. Then Vrel, pale and frayed, stepped forward with shaking hands. This was never a battle. We broke a silence older than our empires. We didn't trace a signal. We unsealed a vault. And now... Vrel looked up. We're inside it. Earth. Cradle 1 Avery Lock stood alone in the harness. The moon had gone dim again. Not offline, just finished. Jonas stared at the sky. She's not speaking. She doesn't need to, Elise whispered. The galaxy's doing it for her now. Below them, Earth remained scarred, but no longer still. The cradle was repairing itself, slowly, elegantly, as if waiting. Jonas swallowed. Are we rejoining the stars? Halverson stepped into the light beside them, watching the heavens shift with ancient understanding. No, he said. We're letting them decide whether they still deserve stars at all. Fleet-wide galactic transmission. The final message came, not from Earth, but from 1,000 human satellites once thought lost. They blinked on across the galaxy, one by one, not in unison, in pattern, in deliberate rhythm. Each blink spelled the same sentence. We remember everything. Then came the last signal, simple, cold. This was the soft answer. The aftermath. The convergence dissolved in less than 5 cycles. No treaties, no wars, no retaliations. Entire civilizations turned inward, shaken by the unanswerable human restraint. The myth had become a mirror, and what they saw was themselves begging for mercy that had never been denied. Just delayed, the last scene. Lunar orbit, a single alien vessel remained, unarmed, drifting, no signal. The moon turned toward it, no weapons, just the recorded voice of a human child, pulled from Earth's pre-silence archives. If someone finds this, please don't be scared of us. We left so we wouldn't become what you feared, but if you're hearing this, you made us come back. They didn't discover a superweapon. They discovered the price of waking something that chose peace, and what it meant when that choice ended. Humanity was never missing. It was simply waiting.